What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sometimes Weekly Sports and Stuff. I'm BJ Kissel, up here at the Holladay Distillery in Weston, Missouri. If you have not been here, I strongly recommend coming up here, taking the tour, stopping by the gift shop. They're set up for Galentine's Day right now. They're taking care of the dudes over the weekend. A lot of cool stuff always popping up. We're down here in the event center, and we've got a nice little 360 drink in our hands. A little butterscotch, Andy, a little bit of peach and a little bit of vodka, a little bit of something. But man, I'm excited for this guest to be joining us. Somebody that we have known each other a very, very long time. And Andy Gruenebaum, former Sporting KC and Columbus Crew comeback player of the year in 2012.
Amongst other things.
You got a long, you have your own Wikipedia page, which is very impressive.
I'm surprised you don't, but yeah, I mean.
No one cares.
Yeah, no.
You did important things. I talk to important people. There's a big difference.
I was a
between
part
those
of
two things.
important things.
You were on the field. I was on the sideline saying, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, right. No, I'm happy to be here, and I've never been here, and it's fantastic. So I'm excited to kind of check out the grounds after. But and also, you know, for us knowing each other a long time, and then actually like reuniting here is pretty cool too.
I found your website, and we'll get into what you do here locally and helping the youth soccer, sports and everything that soccer has become over the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Really want to get your perspective on that. But yeah, I think it's funny. We grew up, for anyone who's listening, we grew up in the same area, and you were a soccer guy. I mean, like thinking back, we played baseball together.
Right, which is why I'm a soccer guy, because you were terrible at baseball.
No, but you were very good at soccer. And I want to start this. I know we have a lot of things we want to talk about, but getting into from the beginning, like what has it meant to you to see soccer? And we'll get into your career, but just this Kansas City soccer scene with what Sporting has become over the last, say, 5 to 10 years, and now with the KC Current and what they have going on with Angie and Chris Long and the investment that they're making in this community. It's been amazing to see from the outside.
Yeah, I think as of now, I mean, that's more exciting to me than anything, because Sporting, I mean, we're not worried about them, right? Yeah. I mean, these are some geniuses at work here. And as far as knowing what I know about the team as a player, and then just the staff and the hires that they've made at the Sporting 2 now with Benny Feilhaber, a former teammate of mine, Iko Para, Darren McLeod, the goalkeeper coach, who I work with as well. And it's just really exciting to see those players that I played with investing in, a place that wasn't originally home for them, but they've called home, because I think you hear that all the way around from every sport, right? Kansas City is just special.
Yeah.
So, my wife and I knew we'd always end up here, even though I was in Columbus for 8 years playing with the Crew. This was always going to be where we ended up. Yeah. So it's really exciting.
I want to go reverse here, and just for anyone who's listening, just give them kind of your background. I went to Blue Valley North, grew up in the area playing soccer, but just the quick synopsis, the elevator pitch of you and your soccer career.
Right, yeah. Went to Blue Valley North. We won a state championship there. From there, was recruited to go play at the University of Kentucky. Redshirted, was told that I was probably 25 pounds too heavy to play, which I was. And then finally figured out what it meant to be kind of more of a professional. So that part of my career started to take off in college, and then the dream of playing professionally was just a fringe thing for me, and finally, as the years progressed, became a reality, and was drafted to play for the Columbus Crew. Won an MLS Cup with Columbus in 2008. Had some unbelievable moments there. Columbus is like second home, the only place I'd ever probably move to, but most likely won't happen. But and then was traded to Sporting in 2004 for the 2014 season, before injuries just kind of took over. Then became a broadcaster myself. Don't know how, don't know why, but I took that on, as well as some coaching in the Sporting Academy. And then here I am running my own youth goalkeeper academy.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to ask about that. One thing I want to touch on, we talk about Columbus, and we were talking about before we were recording, of just the Hunt family and Lamar Hunt, and Clark Hunt, and just overall what they've meant to soccer. Because obviously a lot of people listening to this, we're dropping this into our Kansas City Chiefs bucket. So everybody's getting a little mix here in the offseason. Nobody wants to talk about the Super Bowl right now, and I don't blame you. Yeah, I don't either. So going to mix it up a little bit, but there is a synergy there, and something that a lot of Chiefs fans, I think they know that Lamar and the Hunts were interested in soccer and FC Dallas and all that, but they've got connections with Columbus and just, you said MLS wouldn't be what it is without that family.
Oh, I mean, it's just incredible, the investment that that family has made into, I mean, let's be honest, so many sports, right? I mean, it's incredible, but specifically Major League Soccer would not be anywhere close to where it is without that family. And if there's one critique I might say is I think we could have had bigger rings, more diamonds. So Clark, if you're listening, if we could add a couple more diamonds to my Columbus Crew Championship ring, they owned the team at the time.
Yeah.
But that would be my only critique. So
yeah, it's amazing when you really step back and think, and I went back and read his autobiography, not to go completely off here, but you talk about all the different aspects. I mean, like you can go back to like Worlds of Fun, the Chicago Bulls, they have a piece of that, and the tennis, the World Tennis Association, like they have their hands in a lot. And there's a reason that Lamar's nickname was Games.
Right.
The guy was always had his hand in something, and North American sports wouldn't be what they are today without that family. But I do want to ask what you've got going on now, because we're going to bring up a lot of stories. We're going to do a lot of things now, but we talk about the interest that sporting has in your background. Just what are you doing now to give back to the youth goalkeepers in the area, and what keeps you busy nowadays?
Yeah, well, it's called Union 30 goalkeeping. We work with grassroots kids from age 7, 8, all the way up to college kids that are coming back for their off seasons. So we kind of run the gamut there. It's something I started 5 years ago with, I mean, I had just left sporting from a coaching standpoint, from working in the front office. I had 0 goalkeepers to my name. My wife and I went on a trip to Disneyland with our son at the time, and without any, and then I got a phone call from a local coach saying, hey, I've heard what you're doing. So I started with that phone call with 0 clients to 2, 3, and now we have 200 kids that we work with. So it's really the only thing I'm qualified for. So I'm really happy it's working out. I don't know what I'd be doing otherwise. So it's just a lot of fun to kind of give back and share my experiences and help these kids kind of grow into whatever their goals are.
I know you mentioned going to Columbus, getting drafted and winning the MLS Cup there, but getting that 1 year to come back and play for Sporting as a Kansas City kid, what did it mean? I mean, I know it's a loaded question, but what did that mean to you?
It was so fun. So when my agent had been negotiating with Columbus for, I don't know, the entire year of 2013. Our interim coach at the time, who was also our technical director, was trying to do me a solid, and he said, all right, we accept the terms of this contract. And then the new coach, who's now the U.S. national team coach, Greg Berhalter, came in and probably, he said, we want you here. You've been here a long time. I think you fit my system, but we can't have you for that amount. And so at that point, I was just, it's time to move on. He was probably smart, by the way. I wouldn't have signed me for that amount either. And so it's so funny, after all that hard work from my agent, it ended up being myself. After Sporting won MLS Cup in 2013, Jimmy Nielsen retires. I was at the game, and I was just like, just win so he'll retire so I can come back. A week after they won, I was on the phone just negotiating my own deal with Peter. And, and so just knowing that I would be back home and I didn't have to leave anywhere, right? So my wife and I were back in the off season, and it was time to start looking for a home and tell all my friends. And yeah, just putting on that uniform and playing my first home game is an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can we talk about the Rabbits? Because I remember this. I remember this now that we're sitting here. I remember this being a thing. Can you just explain what was it about the Rabbits?
Like having a pet rabbit?
Yeah, I just remember you had a bunch of pet rabbits and it was a thing.
So I
You're like the
never
rabbit guy.
I never had a pet rabbit until I've always had animals growing up. So we lived, we lived like 188th and Metcalf on acreage. So we had horses, we had cats, whatever.
And
but
for everyone listening, I was at 199th.
Yes,
To let everybody know, we grew up right by each other,
right,
out in the middle of Stillwater.
And probably anybody that's listening has probably been over to that house at one point in time if they're around our age in the high school, in that realm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was something. I've always been an animal lover. My wife was not a fan of dogs. It's amazing we're married, but she had a bunny growing up. So we were at the Ohio State Fair. It was during a time I think we had a bye week or something like that. So I just was like, I called her. I said, come to the Ohio State Fair, bring $50 in a box. I found, so she was like, okay. So
That could mean a lot of things.
that was it. And we had 10 good years with Rue. But it's a weird like you look and you're like, I can't believe there's a rabbit hopping around my house right now.
Yeah.
Just pooping everywhere. But it's happening.
And I just remember something about social media. Maybe Sporting did a story on you once, and I just remember thinking, like, I know that guy. Like, I've seen him forever.
Everyone's like, wait, you have a rabbit? Yeah.
He's surrounded by rabbits.
Yeah.
And I know I asked you this before, but the current and what Angie and Chris have done, just how much pride do you have in being someone that, and not to say that soccer wasn't big back then or there weren't people who cared about it, because I don't want to disrespect it in any kind of way like that, but what it is now compared to when you were growing up as somebody that kind of championed in high school and all that, and now to see what it is, particularly with the current, I know you have some connections with them. Just what does it mean to you to see what they're doing in the city?
Yeah, I feel like my heart is a little bit more invested into what they're doing. I work with a ton of girls goalkeepers here locally. So just to kind of understand what it was like without an academy system, for myself. And obviously the current do not have an academy system yet, or that league hasn't grown, but it's all relative, right? I mean, Major League Soccer, there's been so many evolutions until, the academy system evolved into what it is today. And so it's coming. And especially with owners, like you mentioned, it's inevitable that the sport's going to grow. So I'm very much looking forward to being a part of that on the youth level or any way that I can. And my heart's kind of more invested in that. Sporting's, like I said, they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, and they're one of the best clubs in Major League Soccer at what they're doing.
Yep.
But I very much am invested in seeing what the girls' game does here, the women's game.
Yeah, and in talking with my wife, and talked about this before, but my wife played volleyball. She was an athlete, and we've got a daughter who is interested in sports. And this is not a cliche, but I think it's an obvious thing that when you have a daughter, you have kids, and you see how real it is that we want to take her to see other professional women athletes in that environment, and when this downtown complex gets built to go down there, it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. I mean, to see the renders of what that thing's gonna look like and where it's going to be, it's like that would be perfect for. I mean, not to upset everyone, I'm not saying that the Chiefs should go down by the river. I'm just saying that the views that they're going to get from that place and the way that it's going to add those skyline shots of Kansas City, it's going to do so much. And for somebody that has a daughter that we can now take her, and a wife who played high level volleyball at K-State, it's going to mean a lot to us to see professional women athletes in that environment with that kind of stadium being rewarded and kind of propped up the way they are. It's awesome.
Well, that's how I feel too. My daughter's 3, and my son tells me all the time, my son's 6, and he's like, Dad, sports just aren't my thing. Cool. I don't care. Just be happy. Yeah. But so my only hope, I think, is my daughter. So to be able to take her to these games and maybe spark her interest is something that's really important to me as well. And you're right, that stadium, the renderings, just thinking about it's so exciting, and it happens so quickly. Yeah, it just shows you just how invested the owners are, and this community it's going to do big things.
Yeah, the nerdy creative side of me, when you call it the current, you put it right next to the river, you've got the colors and everything, the current coming through the city and all that. It's like, you could do so much with this. Like, it's that chef's kiss sweet spot with marketing and branding.
Right. They've done it right.
Going back to Sporting, when you got the opportunity to come play here, what are a handful of moments that stand out to you of, when people ask you about your time with Sporting? Because it was short overall compared to the rest of your career.
Yeah.
What are the moments that you remember?
Despite my attempts to get traded to Kansas City, over a 10-year span, never worked until the last year. But honestly, just the pride of representing the city is what I remember the most. It just meant that much more to me to wear the jersey as a member of the home team, rather than getting we don't care where you're from, and more expletives, right? Yeah. But just to represent my home city and be able to play in front of family and friends, you look out into the stands and you see some of the people that you grew up with. Mm-hmm. That's something insane. Like, in the moment in a game, you look up and you're like, hey, I know that person. That's cool. Yeah. And just makes you want to do that much better for the club.
That's really cool. And there's much pride, like somebody that obviously we hadn't seen each other in a long time, but when I see stuff, it's like, I know that guy. Like I remember playing baseball like I growing up, and we talked, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about doing this show about a girl that I went to high school with, and Liz Butler that
Hmm.
went to Kentucky at the same
Yep,
time you did. We were all in the same
that's right.
class, and she goes to Kentucky on the women's side and was a goaltender. Now she's solving the
She's
world as a
probably, yeah, I was
doctor,
gonna say she's probably
much more
curing
successful than you and I.
cancer or something at this point.
Drinking
Cheers to you wherever you are,
yeah,
Liz.
cheers to Liz, whatever you got going on. No doubt that she's successful, but
Yep.
where do you see kind of the future of Kansas City soccer go? I mean, we know that it's growing like crazy. Where do you think this thing can go? Talk about Sporting being an absolute animal they've got it figured out
Right.
with what they have going on. But they're building some stuff up in that area.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of cool stuff when it comes to youth sports, whether it's out in our neck of the woods, 151st and 69. They're
Sure.
putting a huge complex there. You've got Home Field doing all their stuff. I know you use their facilities a little bit. Just where do you see the future of soccer specifically and youth sports going in Kansas City?
Well, I think ultimately it starts from the top. So Peter Vermees is a genius. I'm not just saying that. Like this guy, I don't understand. He's operating at a different level than anybody else in this world. So that trickle down effect is going to make every coach better because of the standards, right? So there's a trickle down effect from Peter to the staff, his assistants to the SKC2 to the academy. And then from the academy, that pouring out to the local scene. I mean, everybody is wanting to get better and do things in a much more professional manner. So that's only going to help the youth game. And the same thing can be said on the women's side. On the girls' side in the youth sports, you got to imagine a world where there's an academy that link, a current to, if you will, that just the same pieces you see in place. You can just picture that taking hold in the women's game as well. So I don't know when, but it's coming. And like I said, I'm really excited and we'll do whatever I can to help that process. And it's going to be amazing to see it. Like you look back 20 years when you and I can't walk and it'll be there. It'll be there.
Curious because of your involvement and your willingness to help in this space, just if for anyone who's listening, who's got young kids and you talk about having a 6-year-old, my son just turned 7, my daughter's 4. They're interested in soccer. What advice do you have? There's so many clubs and academies, and I know you have your thing. I'm not asking you to pick favorites because it's a small world. And I don't want you to do that.
Yeah,
but what's your advice to people that are coming up through this world? Because one thing as a parent that I'm learning, and it starts with soccer, it happens in every sport, and it drives me crazy. I don't know if we're these old guys with kids talking about this stuff, but it's if you don't get your kid on a team when they're 5, it's too late. Like they're going to get left out. And I know it's part of it. You're in that world, but just what advice do you have for parents of kids who are really interested in soccer at a really young age where it's not that club, year round, grind them into the dirt, but what's your advice?
I think my advice is more geared towards being a parent myself. And that's, really, really understand your child, right? And what makes them tick, what makes them happy. Because at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of really talented kids just kind of lose interest and get burned out by it. And that's really sad because, it's a situation where if given the right environment, they could have really flourished.
Yeah.
So especially at a young age, I highly recommend kids play multiple sports. Yeah. I know once some kids are having to make those tough decisions at 11, 12, when the academy's looking after them, you have to think about it. In Europe and all over the world, soccer, football is the number one sport. And those kids are willing to, whatever is that's on the side, they're willing to leave that behind and simply just put their life and all their eggs into that basket. So here it's much different. We have multi-sport athletes, and I have that conversation with kids all the time. We only get one shot at this thing, right? And so it's very important that these kids are happy and enjoy what they're doing. And so life's too short not to enjoy the ride. So that would be my biggest thing, especially at an early age. Get touches on the ball, touches on the ball, enjoy it. Make sure you're surrounded by friends and a coach that is not geared towards winning, because who's going to remember what you did at age 5, 6, 7, 8, even through 15? I don't remember those years. You just don't. So it's about the ride.
I think careers in any sport are only ended before the age of 10. Nothing's created before. You're not developing the
Right.
next all-star or whoever at the age of 8 years old, but you could definitely ruin a sport for a
Easily.
kid, and you see it a
Yeah.
lot. And I think even going back to like when we were growing up, before clubs were starting to kind of become a thing, with baseball with me, like in high
Mhm.
school, it started to become a thing. Wasn't what it is now, but I remember thinking like you really have to love it once you get to like that, you're a teenager, you've got to love the process to do it. And if you don't, thinking back, we were growing up, some of the kids who were the best baseball players when we were 10, 11, 12, they weren't playing when they were seniors in high
Right.
school. You picked the 10 best players when we were, in 8th grade.
Right.
I'd say even 8th grade, I'd say 4 of those 10 kids weren't playing baseball at times we were seniors. They just burnt out and they found other things to do.
Well, now these kids today have social media to deal with too.
Ugh.
So I think Joe Burrow had a really great quote you probably saw about, doing it in the dark, right? Don't let other people see your paths. Well, that's simply because, I'm around a ton of these kids that they're posting what they do and they think that that's and I want to help them. It's social media. There's so many pressures that we don't understand at that age. We understand them from, in a vacuum because we see how it affects kids, but just that self-love, we didn't have that pressure of, showing that that's how we show our worth.
Right.
That's not your worth, and it's hard to just tell a kid that's all their other friends are posting this or posing in this, and it's a really hard dynamic to navigate.
Yeah. I almost like I don't envy kids having to deal with the
Not
stuff
at
that they're
all.
dealing with now with COVID and all of it combined. Like I can't imagine being in those situations. But to your point, like it, you have to love what you're doing. You have to kind of have your head on the right way. You have to kind of be grounded in the same kind of way. And coaches, teammates, all that stuff can go into it. But I think both of us, not necessarily me as a player, I played baseball at a high level, but you get to the professional level. And one thing during my 6 years with the Chiefs that I learned is high school kids who think they know what working hard looks like.
Mhm.
Guys like Patrick Mahomes and Travis, the best in the world, are always working.
Right.
It is not, to Joe Burrow's point, it's not go do one workout, put it out on social media on Instagram, and then go sit down for 4 days before you do something else. Like
Exactly.
these guys are working
Exactly.
all day, every day. It's a level of commitment that I wish there was a little bit better of a peek into how much time goes into it. And then the young kids, the 13, 14-year-olds who think they know what hard work is, really don't. And something you actually mentioned, to switch gears a little bit, when you went to Kentucky, and I think you said you were a little overweight and you learned
I
what hard
was very
work.
much, yeah.
The same exact thing happened
I
to me.
invented the COVID 20 then.
It's funny you say that, because when I went to Central Missouri before I transferred to K-State to play baseball, I went down and played for Brad Hill, and they were good. I mean, they were 54-8 the year before I went. They finished third in the nation the first year, and then we won the national championship my redshirt freshman year. I thought I knew what hard work was,
Right.
coming out of Blue
Right.
Valley High School, and
Yeah.
I was pretty good baseball player. I don't think I was cocky in that way. I don't think I was outwardly entitled, but I didn't know what real work meant until I got to college, until I got and threw a good pitch and it got hit off the wall, and it was like, oh damn,
Yeah,
like
that ain't
what
gonna fly
do
here.
I do? That was a good pitch. Like these guys hit good pitches, and I was like, I'm in trouble.
Well, it's the same because, back in the day, I don't know if they still wear leather jackets, but I had every patch and
Mhm.
I thought I was the coolest guy. I'd wear that thing in the summer. It turns out
You
I
walk
wasn't
into the
that,
high school gym.
yeah, I was
the
not
basketball
that cool
game.
of a dude, right? Not looking back, but, I walked into, my college environment thinking that I was just going to be the man. I'm a high school All-American. I'm this, I'm that. And man, was I put into my place. And thank goodness there was a transfer, junior
Mhm.
that was kind of given a second chance, had a bad history himself. But that dude taught me what work ethic looked like. And then as I entered the pro ranks, I was blessed to be with a 20 plus year pro, John Bush. This guy was 5'11" as a goalkeeper, and just so you can imagine, I'm 6 foot and I'm considered small.
Yeah.
This guy, to play over 20 years, I mean, that guy taught me what true professionalism was. So I've been blessed to kind of learn from those guys, and that's kind of what I try and teach the kids I work with and get them into some of the good habits now, rather than you'd be shocked to hear, like, when I talk to me about your diet. Well, I can relate, but I also have learned a lot, and that is not how you fuel your body at all. So
Yeah. Look, looking back, I wish I had known more about diet. Now I threw like 82. I don't know if I ate better if all of a sudden I was gonna throw like 94. I don't know if
Right.
I was still gonna be a 5'11" righty that was, red shirted. So I was like 23-year-old righty throwing 82. Ate a little better, maybe a little stronger, but yeah, the same guy to give flowers to the guy who helped me. Zach Norman was he's 2 years older than me. He was the Division II Player of the Year. He was the captain on the team down at UCM when we won the national championship, and he was my roommate. And that first year, I was redshirting anyway. I went down that first fall and got fucking lit all fall. Like I just got shelled like my neck hurt every day. Like I'm just like whiplash. Balls bouncing off the wall. And I was pitching to a team where I was like, these are D2 guys. Like I want to go D1. These are D2 guys. These D2 guys hit like 430 as a team. Like these guys could rake, and just got lit. And it was the next. It was actually got lit all fall. And got hurt. My lung collapsed that winter in like December, and I was already redshirting, so I was like on my way out. Like, you're never gonna play here. And Brad Hill, the coach, during my like meeting that fall, was like, if you don't change everything about the way you approach this game, you're never gonna step foot on the field for me. I can remember like it was yesterday, and that was when I was just like, oh,
it's so.
I thought I was good at this, and then like this guy just told me I'm never gonna play, and it was coming off the collapsed lung and working my way back into it. It was Zach who was training with me that summer going into the next fall, where he's like, if you want to play, you got to work at a level you've never worked before. He's the one who pulled it out of me. I went into the next fall, didn't give up a run. Like, I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. Didn't give up a run, earned the 7th inning job as a redshirt freshman. And then I was the 7th inning guy for a national championship team. Coach took me with him to K-State. And a year earlier, off a collapsed lung, he's like, you're never going to step foot on the field for me. And so like, I very much understood that I had to swallow my pride in my, like that transition from high school to college. Like, everybody's good at this level. You at some point you realize you're not good enough, and you got to change how you approach it. And for me, that was at Central. Yeah,
it's so funny you said that. I had such a similar meeting after my redshirt season. I walk into the and I was fully ready. Like in my mind, I was transferring to Baker University, to where my wife went. We were dating at the time, and to her credit, she talked me off the ledge there. But I went into my meeting with my coach, and he's this English guy. His teeth fall out. He's pissed all the time. He's the Bobby Knight of soccer. I mean, truly, like, just, but I love that guy. And, and I was like, hey, I don't think this is for me. And you can curse on this?
Yeah.
He's like, well, there's the fucking door. He's like, this ain't for everybody. And it was that tough love. He's like, you're never going to play. He's like, you're too fat, this and that. And I'm like, okay. And then he brought in this Canadian kid from Vancouver to start over me. Yeah. And I knew he was coming all summer long. That's all I could think about. So that like, I thought about, I didn't know what this kid looked like, but I just thought like, no one's touching this job. I'm coming, I'm coming. So that's when I flipped the switch. It was just after that tough love, that meeting. So I had a very similar meeting and then just took it to heart.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I needed to get kicked in the junk.
Every once you got to get told you're not good enough. Everybody's told that plays a sport at some level. Like at some point, you're told you're not good enough to play anymore. Like everybody has that moment. Right. I just wasn't ready to hear it like right out of college. I was like, I thought this is what I was going to do. Yeah. But anyway, talking here with Andy Gruenebaum at the Holladay Distillery up in Weston, Missouri. They're set up here now for Galentine's Day. If you've followed some of these shows, they've been set up for these pop-up parties during, the holiday break. It was, decorated with all the Christmas stuff, but we appreciate Matt and Patrick and Jules and everybody up here for taking care of us. But as we wrap up this show, Andy, I love this conversation. I really enjoyed this. Final thoughts for anyone out there listening who's interested in the soccer scene in Kansas City. I know I already asked you, like, where do you think it's going? But how much pride should Kansas City take in what this community and what everybody from the Longs to throwing love to Kathy Nelson, because she's got to get credit for something. We're all a part of this, but Absolutely. Just how much pride should Kansas City take as somebody who's been around to different cities and this world and what's happening in our backyard with this sport in particular? Yeah, I think just as somebody who knows the landscape, there's a lot of good things going on across the nation as far as, especially in the men's game. But I would just urge everyone to, I'm not the type of person that like buys jerseys or I support them, but called kits, Andy.
Right, kits. Yeah, I'm talking about like I just there's something weird about. I'm not that type to like go out there and like write on social media about a game after it happens, or it's just I internalize everything.
Yep.
And I'm a very level-headed fan, but I just would urge everybody to go all in, you know, and whether you are a big time soccer fan or you couldn't care less, you know, just the support, especially for the current, and what that can do to kind of spark other things can't be understated. So, first of all, whether it's an exciting game or not, there's an opportunity to go get an adult beverage in either one of these venues, right? So, what's better than getting out, taking your kids, enjoying an adult beverage, and then the games are 90 minutes. You know, they're not like a Chiefs game or a Royals game, which are very fun to go to as well, but the games are quick. So you've got that going for you too, even if you're not the biggest fan. But otherwise, go all in, because I think there are big things coming. They need that push, especially to substantiate building this incredible venue, right? So,
and obviously, there's a couple of dads with daughters and the ability to just go and take them. I don't think we're going to be able to properly understand the impact of what the KC Current could do for like generations. And that's not trying to make these big statements. It's very real. And having a daughter and wanting to take her out to a game and her being interested in all of that, it's special. And obviously, as somebody that has dedicated a huge part of their life to this sport in this community, it's cool to get your perspective on where it's coming. It makes it more exciting, knowing that you're excited as somebody that's been in this world, that everything's headed in a really cool place. So appreciate everybody for tuning in to this episode of Sometimes Weekly Sports and Stuff. We will be back next week with another special guest up here at Holladay Distillery. And again, if you are looking for a quick getaway, they have got live music up here. They've got the welcome center. You can come have some drinks, do the tour. It is a really, really cool gem of a little place just outside of Kansas City that I don't think enough people know. It's first time up here for you.
I'm blown away. I'm definitely doing a fantasy football draft here. I've already made up my mind, taking the league here. So
we're going to let them know that that's a new asset that they can sell for. We're down here at the event center. They rent this out for all kinds of cool stuff. But appreciate everybody for listening, and we'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.